Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining. Today we are going to hear Dr. Sucheta Dandekar. She is a distinguished medical educator and biochemist. She previously served as a professor and head of Department of Biochemistry at Seth GS Medical College and KEM Hospital, Mumbai, and currently holds the position of Professor of Biochemistry at IRA's Lucknow Medical College. She is an adjunct faculty member at the Manipal Academy of Health Education, a recipient of numerous awards. She actively contributes to the IRA CVU courses and currently serves as the president of the Academy of Health Professions Educators in India. With this, Sucheta, the floor is yours. Thank you for joining. We really, really appreciate it. And it's an amazing topic, which not only we can use in medical profession, but also at home. So, yeah.
So true.
So,
You said it.
yeah, it is at any workplace and home and, with family. So this is really good. I'm sure all these skills that we are learning today will help us everywhere. So with that, thank you so much. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sakina. And a namaskar to Dr. Zaidi, who's also here with us. And here we go. So I hope at the end of this session, we will be able to differentiate between a disagreement, argument, and conflict, especially in healthcare settings, though, of course, we can look at the personal settings also. Uh, I hope that we will be able to recognize common sources and stages of conflict in our environments and apply the five Thomas Kilmann conflict management approaches to real life situations and use basic interprofessional personal communication strategies to manage and de escalate conflict effectively. So, having said this, I want to ask you when I say disagreement, what comes to your mind? When I say argument, what comes to your mind? And when I say conflict, what comes to your mind? Are they all three the same or do they differ? You can just unmute yourself and talk. You can put your views in the chat, whatever you feel comfortable.
Madam, Mrunal here.
Yes, Mrinal. Hi, Mrinal.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Hi. Yeah. So I feel disagreement is a point has been put forth, and I do not agree with it. But in argument, I would want to put my point of view. I don't want to just stop short at just disagreeing with it. I want to fight for whatever my point is. And conflict is, I think, another higher or when the arguments have gone beyond.
Perfect. Perfect, Pradal. So you said it all. Uh, Disagreement is just so thank you so much for this. And this disagreement is just a difference in opinions. It's just a dialogue which we could say, I think we should try another method. I mean, and that the opposite person could be malleable to change. An argument, the core characteristic will be an attempt to prove who is right. Verbally, you are aggressive, and there are verbal aggressive exchanges where maybe the dialogue will be, you never listen, but my way is better. And a conflict where there are fundamental clash of values, identity, or power, where you will just say, you always undermine me. And if you look at the emotional thermometer, it will go from a support light blue to a caution yellow. And when it comes to the conflict, it will be an urgent red. That means here we really need to take cognizance about what is happening. Uh, so yes, so Mona rightly said they're escalating. I just look at the chat, escalating grades. Uh, disagreement will be, Yogesh also put that perfectly well. And Lavanya says they belong to the same spectrum and intensity varies. And Farheen has said it's a serious disagreement is a conflict. And all of you have been right there. So at least we understand that when we say conflict, it means that we really need to use some strategies by which we will have a win-win situation, or where we do not escalate it into what is said to be a tornado. But let me tell you one thing. There are two general perspectives regarding the nature of conflict. The first perspective is which sees conflict as a disruption to normal working systems. So, conflict is inherently something that is dangerous to relationships and should be avoided. This is what some people think, all right? So, some people's perspective. The second perspective could see conflict as a normal, inevitable part of any relationship. From this perspective, conflict is a tool that can either be used constructively or destructively in relationships. So it is everything that we do ultimately relies on these two perceptions. And what stand are you going to take as far as conflict management is concerned? That is also a point to be looked into or thought of. And we must realize that, since all of us are human beings, we have different cultures, different setups, different upbringing. All this will obviously has conflict as a normal and natural part of life. And at the same time, learning how to manage conflict in our interpersonal relationships is very important for long-term success in those relationships. And that is what we need to think of. What I want you to do is think of one time you disagreed with someone at work. Ask yourself, did it stay a disagreement? Did it become an argument? Or did it turn into a conflict? And why? I don't want you to tell anyone. I just want you to introspect, think about your situation, and do this for yourself. Think of a situation. All right. I am going to give you a whole minute to think of it, about it. And keep those thoughts with you. Dr. Saidi has rightly put, fools argue and have conflicts. Wise debate and discuss. So true, sir. Thank you. If you can key in these words or whatever I'm asking you, that'll be nice. If you have I'm a typical pen and paper person. So I usually just, have a paper and I jot down things. So you could do that as well. So I hope you have, that incident in mind, and we can then go ahead with the rest of what we're going to take. So there is an architecture of systemic conflict. The first tier is at a micro level, where, let me just have the pointer. The first one is the tier one, which is an intrapersonal conflict. That means there's an internal friction within yourself. You could have some competing values, there could be ethical dilemmas which you are not able to sort out because something has happened, and it is just going against your own being, and it results in a conflict within yourself. So that is the intrapersonal. The second type of conflict, which is at a tier 2, would be an interpersonal conflict. There is a friction between two individuals, two faculty. Example would be, two faculty members clashing over teaching methods. Simple, but it could be there. And simple as a disagreement, which could go into a conflict. There could be an intergroup conflict, friction between distinct teams or cohorts, where you have researchers, you have monitors, you have so many aspects, and it could be a whole groups fighting. And then tier 4 would be at a macro level, which would be inter-organizational conflicts, rival institutions, friction across entire systemic bodies, or it could be huge departments fighting against each other, having a conflict about some things. The use my use of fight is maybe a wrong terminology, but people are sort of arguing and trying to not let things happen. This we have seen very often, when we have union conflicts that are there and things just don't move. So this would be at the macro level or the tier 4 level. The conflict process, Kenneth Thomas talked about it way back in 1976. What he said was, there is a certain amount of frustration, about things. And that frustration leads to a conceptualization of some things. And people don't have the courage to try and get clarification of what they have conceptualized. People conceptualize on their own, with their friends, with their groups. And because of this conceptualization, and because people have not tried to look into what actually is the problem, you have changes in behavior. And those changes in behavior lead to outcomes which could be positive, or those outcomes could be have very, very negative repercussions, leading to what this paper and this dispute resolution office, from the Ministry of Justice, they have got a leadership and influencing change. They have brought out this booklet, and they talk about it as a conflict in escalation tornado. So what does it go from? From trying to cooperate, it goes to competition, it goes to look for support, it goes to attribute motives, to a group think, believes, feed observations, because then there is so much that is happening, and then people start becoming moralistic also, and they start personalizing things, and they heard before being heard. And of course, finally, if that conflict is not resolved, there is mutual self-destruction also that could happen. Why? Because some people think, what the hell? I mean, this is something that I just don't agree with. And you could walk out of a situation, you could walk out of a job, and without having thought about your family, without having thought about what is the next step, without having thought about what about my next meal. I mean, I know of so many situations where a conflict has arisen to such, escalated to such levels that whole families have got destructed. Why? Because someone just couldn't come to a consensus or to a win-win situation, or someone just didn't want to compromise. So those are the situations that can lead to very, very different kind of repercussions. Also, at the workplace, there could be risk for workplace violence also. I mean, we've seen this so often in our emergency settings, where a conflict between patient and doctor. And if you open a newspaper, I mean, now they don't make big headlines, but somewhere you will always find one small clip which will say violence at a workplace, and that some people got angry and this is what happened. Most of the time, it is also communication that has gone haywire. So before I continue with what I was going to say, I'm just going to have a look at the chat and see what people have to say. So people are saying, Anant says that it varies with whom you are going. In hierarchical system of medical colleges, disagreement can be viewed as argument or conflict. Correct. There has to be a conflict. There has to be a context. So you have to think of the context also when it comes to a conflict management and a conflict. So there are many strategies for preventing conflict, emphasizing organization-wide goals and effectiveness, providing stable, well-structured tasks, facilitating intergroup communications, and avoiding win and lose situation, like you win and this group loses. That kind of a situation we need to avoid. Having said this, there are common strategies which many people use, but it is a known fact that they seldom work. One is non action. There is a conflict, you know that something is brewing, and you just decide to ignore it and just say, forget it, it hasn't come to me as yet. I'm sitting in this chair, and since no one has mentioned it to me, I have not even heard about it. There could be administrative orbiting. What am I saying? What do I mean by this? The administration just goes round and round and round in an orbit, not trying to tackle exactly what is happening. There could be a due process non-action. So there is one is non-action, and the other one would be slowly moving into a non-action kind of a zone. The other would be just maintaining secrecy. Don't say this to anyone. I just don't want anyone to hear about this. And the final would be character assassination. We've heard this so often where people will say, "Oh, I know that man, that boy, all the time bickering. That is his trait, So just forget about it. He is known to behave like this." And why? Why don't you try and find out why this person has this kind of a viewpoint? So these are aspects that will not work. And this is what we need to keep in mind. So, of course, there are many ways in which you can manage conflict. One would be personal aspects. There could be a certain managerial style that is there, and you could use it. You have to look into the gender, culture, and personality. So, personal aspects play an important role. Even though we don't say that there has to be a commonality as far as the gender is concerned, there are times when we have seen in some organizations that gender does play a role, and we need to find out what kind of a role is it playing, and is it sort of causing or is it the main reason for the conflict? Then, of course, there could be the situational aspects, the situation of the conflict, and the organizational aspect, the conflict where you need to maybe train people for conflict management. You have to find out about the managerial status and what they will say as far as the conflict is concerned. And of course, most of the time, many of the organizations will have conflict management procedures in place. And there you have to ensure that there is also organizational support. So conflict management mode is then chosen depending on all these three aspects: the personal aspect, the situational aspect, and the organizational aspect. I want you to take a quick self-test. We will decide your default conflict style. Okay. Don't overthink. Just think of a recent conflict at work. If you cannot think of a conflict at work, think of an argument you had at home. So, but then don't overthink about it. Just think with your instinct. For each statement that I will now show, there are four statements I'm going to show you. Choose the option that feels most like you. What is it that you would do in that situation? Are you ready?
Yes.
Uh, yes,
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
great. So, yeah, very good. Huh? I'm just now looking at the chat and then I can. Yes, Dr. Riyad says accreditation and quality improvement can prevent conflict. That is true. Very true. Thank you for that. So, here goes. I'm not going to read it out. You read this out yourself and think for yourself. I will now move on to the second question, second situation. This is something you're doing for yourself. I don't need to know. You just work out your own conflict management style. I will go to the third. And I will go to the fourth. All right. I hope you have your alphabets there. What you want to, I want you to do is, this is your comfort zone. If you have more A's, you are more competing. If you have more B's, you are collaborating. If you have more C's, you are compromising. If you have more D's, you generally try to avoid the situation. And when you have more E's, you are an accommodating kind of a person in the sense this is your default baseline. Most of the time, you know this is your comfort zone when it comes to an argument or when it comes to a conflict that is happening. All right, so keep that. I mean, there's nothing like right or wrong. There is nothing like this is the situation. But what you need to know is you are this kind of a person. How can you move or change or shift as and when things happen? Okay. And this is what we are going to explore subsequently. So, we will explore the 5 ways we can handle conflict using the Thomas Kilmann model. In 1974, a pair of researchers, Kenneth Thomas and Ralph Kilmann, studied workers and their routine conflicts in the workplace, and they came up with this kind of a diagnostic compass. Okay, he said that most of the time we work in two sorts of zones, One is when you are trying to be very assertive. Why? When you're assertive, you are thinking only of yourself. And the other axis is when there is a cooperativeness, where there is a concern for others. And what they said was, Thomas and Gilman, that most of the time people will have five strategies. All right. One is avoiding. That is, can we talk about this some other time? You just don't want to talk about it because you don't want anything to escalate and you just don't want to make a decision. The other could be accommodating, where you could say, okay, let's do it your way. So just give in. Why? Maybe you're concerned about others, but at the same time, you've sort of not thought about yourself at all or your opinion at all because it's way down this axis. The third component could be competing. Only one can win. That is your strategy, and it had better be me. So you will assert high assertiveness and high cooperativeness. At the same time, you could also and you could be collaborating. You can say, I reckon we can. This is high assertiveness and high self thinking of the self. I reckon we can both get what we need. And the fifth component that Thomas Kinman said was compromising. Okay? Can we just meet in the middle on this and just do it where we both have a win-win situation? So this is the diagnostic compass that they put forward. So you have avoiding, which is both the concern for self and others is low. Then there is a competing where you're dominating, you are saying you're right. Collaborating, you're integrating, and accommodating, you're just obliging and giving it all up. And at the same time, you could be also compromising where you have a win-win situation. So managing interpersonal conflicts at work is something that we need to think of. Are there any questions so far? There are a number of things in the chat, so I'll just have a look before we go ahead. Thank you everyone for answering. Yes, Lavanya rightly says it is a balancing act, and it sure is. So the high assertive modes are competing, where you are high assertive and low cooperative. How would you define that? Taking a firm stand using authority, logic, or a decisive action. And when is it best used? When quick decisions are vital, patient safety or ethics are at stake, or it could be that you hold clear authority and are confident that you're right. That is when you will use this card of yours of competing. All right. What are the pros and cons? You get fast results and there is strong leadership that is needed, but it could cause friction and it could also damage the morale of your people around you. The second part, way, collaborating, which is high assertive and high cooperative. What is the definition of this? Working together to find a win-win situation that fully satisfies both parties, all parties. I'm not talking about just two parties, a win-win situation for everyone who's involved. When is it best used? When it is complex, the situation is complex, there could be interdisciplinary issues which need diverse input. Long-term relationship preservation is critical. You feel, I just cannot let go of this situation. So I need to be there. So, I need to collaborate and say, okay, this is what we should do. But what are the pros and cons? It builds immense trust and innovation. And it is, however, it could be highly time consuming and it will require a lot of effort because all parties that are involved should come on the same page and say, yes, this works. This reminds me, of union situations where you realize that if I mean, I come from a medical college in Mumbai where, there a strike would just be announced at the drop of a hat. And we knew that if this happened, the parts and pockets of Mumbai would come to a standstill. So we always had talks with the people, with the unions, and not just one union, with three, four, five unions coming together. I'm trying to collaborate so that ultimately there is what we call in Mumbai a Mumbai Bandh kind of a situation should not arise. That means the city would come to a standstill. So that is also being a part of the corporation, we have tried to collaborate and try to work on. Then there would be the low assertive group modes where you could just avoid, delay, or sidestep the conflict. When the issue is trivial, that's one thing. No, it doesn't matter. Just let's forget it, because no one is going to get affected at that time. However, it could be a situation where everyone is on fire. The emotions are so high that anything that you say will really ignite the situation. So you want to just keep avoiding it, hopefully, for the time being. So when would we best use it? When the stakes are low, the timing is poor, a cooling off period is needed to gather facts. This is something that we have learned in most management is episodes, where people say, if you are going to just, burst, take a deep breath, count up to 10, and then open your mouth. Yes, that is what we have said, or just avoid. Yeah, that is what we've been told, taught, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So, what are the pros and cons? It prevents immediate escalation, but unresolved issues may persist or worsen over time. And that is what what you're going to think of, because you are sitting on a time bomb, and when it bursts and causes havoc, you never know. The fourth mode is the accommodating mode, low assertive and high cooperative. How will you define it? Prioritizing others' concerns over your own to preserve harmony and goodwill. You feel, let it be. Poor things. I will listen to them. That is the situation, that when many of us have when it comes to our students. All right, all right. You want to not come tomorrow for this. You don't want me to give you a test. All right. But this is not a conflict. It is not going to escalate into a conflict. The students are not going to escalate anything into a conflict. Even if you were to say that, no, I will give the test tomorrow. But this is the kind of an accommodating nature many people have, many of us have. And as we age, I think we become, I at least have been, using this more often than not, I find, maybe, but when is it best used? The issue is minor. The relationship matters the most. I feel, no, let me just give in. Or you are, or it could be when you actually realize that you were wrong. Someone nicely points it out to you, and you realize, oh my God, why didn't I think of it like this? I was not aware. But that is when you have to give up or give in, and have that low assertive kind of a situation and use that accommodating process, where what will it do? It will build goodwill, and it will also show respect to the other people who are involved. But remember that overuse will breed resentment and results in a loss of authority, where people will say, you go cry over her shoulder and she's going to give up, or give in. And that is what you need to avoid. That is why I asked you to sort of find out what is your default mechanism of managing conflict. The fifth is the middle ground, the compromising, moderate assertiveness and cooperation. What is the definition? finding a middle ground where each side gives up something to achieve a fair outcome. It is best used when quick balance solutions are needed. Both sides have equal power and mutually exclusive goals, and the resources are strictly limited, and you feel that, oh, we need to come together. So this is highly efficient and maintains temporary harmony, but so it often results in mediocre solutions, because there's nothing like, because you've just come and handshaken midway, where neither party is fully satisfied and the best options are overlooked. So everywhere we see, whatever decision we make, there could be a good and a bad, So we have to find out where can we have these shades of gray. So I'm going to give you 5 cases. I'm going to force one kind of a situation on you all. And I'm going to also ask you, how would you also apply another conflict situation? I want one person to, I will read this out, and we will have one person to maybe answer this. Okay. The scenario is this: during a clinical trial, interim safety data reveal unexpected adverse reactions in several participants. The principal investigator, a senior clinician, wants to continue recruitment, arguing the sample size is still small. You are the safety monitoring lead and believe recruitment must stop immediately pending review. What is the nature of this conflict? How will you apply the competing conflict handling mode, the competing one? Why may this approach work, and will this mode work better? Will another mode work better? That is what the competing. I want you to use the competing method. You can raise your hands. I'm looking out for a show of hand. Or you can just unmute. I have Mrunal raising her hand. Yes, Mrunal, go ahead.
Ma'am, I think competing will not work here
Okay.
because there must be some ground rules. If there are adverse reactions happening,
Okay.
is it just taking over and using your authority as a senior person? Will it be
Hmm.
correct? And continuing, it's a clinical trial after all. It has its
Yes.
own rules and
Yes.
regulations.
Yes.
So maybe competing will not work.
So what approach will you use?
I mean, negotiation, it needs to be both I mean, what is really going to the base of the issue, or okay, which one mm, compromising, trying to
Would you
find
really
out.
compromise
I'm
in
not
this?
able to get the correct word. You need to go
Okay.
to the base of the issue.
All
It
right.
cannot be, yeah.
Okay, that is your stand. Lavanya wants to say something. Yes, Lavanya.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes. Hi.
Ma'am, in this situation, see, adverse drug reactions in several participants is definitely a grave situation, wherein one has to be, has to have a strong foothold and say that no, this can't be allowing further recruitment. I feel that, a decisive, assertive way of handling things is the best approach over here. This is my perspective, ma'am. Being a
Yes.
pharmacologist, I feel that adverse drug
Yes.
reactions definitely have an
Yes.
impact and it needs to be stopped immediately.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
can you?
sorry, ma'am. Can I say one thing? This is what
Yes.
I had in mind, but I was thinking that the decision power is only with the senior. I have the same point of view
Yeah. Yeah. So
because
you
it
are,
is
but you
mentioned
are the
here.
safety monitoring lead. See. So what is it that you want to apply? So you can always assert and say no, stop for a
Yes,
certain
asserting.
time, and then can you again once more negotiate and try and find out, look into the situation, see how really, how many adverse reactions are seen, and work out a win-win situation. Or you could stop for some time and then go ahead, look into the situation, and perhaps come back to into a compromising kind of a situation. See, what I'm trying to, with all these scenarios that I'm going to show you all, is we have to realize that many situations could be such that one kind of mode may not work completely. We need to think of one or two modes that can work in situations. But in this case, since it is an adverse reaction, it could have problems. Yes, Mohammed, go ahead. Mohammed, I see your hand raised. Can you unmute yourself? Anand Khoth, go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Yeah,
Mohammed, I see you have
ma'am.
unmuted yourself. Okay, Anand will talk. Yes, Anand, go
Y-
ahead.
yeah. Can you hear me? Huh.
Yes, I can
Yeah,
hear you.
ma'am. Here I do. Yeah, it is like a grave situation, but the thing is, lead why he has to put everything on his shoulder. He can convey it to his higher ups, and the things can be made collaboratively and can be done. Otherwise, what will happen is next time, whenever this person who is a safety lead or maybe pharmacologist, when he goes for a trial, next time that senior clinician will see with a different angle. So that is the reason, rather than getting in conflict with them, get help of the higher ups and sit across and discuss and solve the matter, rather than taking a bold decision. No means no.
Okay. Yes. So you can see how each one of us has a different approach to one particular situation. And let me tell you, not nothing could be, no situation or no decision will be absolutely correct or absolutely wrong. So keep that in mind now. All right, Mohammed, can you unmute yourself and talk? All right. So let's go to the second situation that I have here.
Am
Two
I
faculty.
audible
This
now?
is yes, and Mohammed, go ahead. Yeah, yeah, you are. But there's an echo.
So, ma'am, here my take, it is a sort of competing high assertive, low cooperative situation because there
Okay.
is a persistent side effect being reported, and the participants are on they are having side effects, and
Okay.
here we have to be assertive, and this competing high assertive and low cooperative approach should be adopted here.
Yes. 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 Good. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm glad that all of us are realizing that each one of us will think differently and will uh, analyze a situation in different ways. Now, this is a very simple situation. We've seen it very often. Two faculty members are designing a new teaching module. One prefers traditional lectures, the other wants fully interactive flipped classroom session. And the discussion is stuck. They just don't, one says flipped classroom fully, the other says traditional. What is the nature? Can you apply a collaborative conflict handling mode? Why will this approach work? And or will you use another mode? Or will the collaborative conflict handling work here? Anyone? So when you use the collaborative conflict mode, what would you do? Why is there so much? Yes.
Can I?
So you would use. Yes, Faiza, tell me.
Yeah, so I think collaborative management is the best thing here because we
Yes.
don't have much
ma'am.
of a choice.
I also agree, ma'am.
Correct.
That is
Correct.
the collaborative
This,
approach here.
yes. So there's no need to compromise. There's no need to accommodate. You will collaborate by saying that, okay, part of you, I think, Mohammed, you'll have to mute yourself. Yeah, thank you. What you will say is that some of the topics we will have the traditional lectures, and in some topics we will have the flipped classroom, and we will have a win-win situation here. So this you can use a collaborative situation. In the third case, two departments request the same auditorium for important events on the same day. Both have valid reasons and external participants coming. So you know how it is that the one auditorium in our institutes is the best. So everyone wants it. What will you do? And if you were to use a compromising situation, what would you use? How would you use the compromising situation?
Can I say, ma'am?
Yes, yes, please go ahead. I can't see who can just say who you are.
Dr. Faiza.
Faiza. Yes, go ahead, please.
So I think the in my situation, what we normally do is that we look for another venue and just move ahead instead of keeping on sticking to the same venue and
Yeah.
making the conflict more difficult.
So at that time, when you compromise, will you say, "All right, maybe in a way, giving in now, but the next time something like this happens, will you let me use the auditorium, and will you take the other one? Would you sort of make a pact with that person?"
We could, but it doesn't usually work.
But do we as human beings have this tendency to say, "All right, I'm giving it to you now, but can we have can you let me use it?" Mohammed, you wanted to say
Yeah,
something?
yeah. It must be a accommodating.
You would compromise here by
Yeah,
giving it up, but
yeah.
at the same time, maybe you would say that, right? To sort of ensure that all the time this doesn't happen. But as Faiza rightly says, it may not work all the time. The fourth scenario. Two senior colleagues frequently disagree during meetings and the conversations become tense. Today, the disagreement is getting personal in a group setting. So, people they are just sort of saying things to each other which really, really are very mean. So, how would you avoid? Would you pretend that you never heard them go about it, or what would you do? If you were to avoid, what would you do?
Yeah, ma'am. Here I avoid. I have an avoiding approach.
You would have an avoiding approach. It means you just leave the meeting. You would go out.
Yeah, according to situation, I will leave.
All right. And what would other people want to do otherwise if we didn't say that avoid?
I think
What
I'd
kind?
call
What
for a
would
hurry
be the
solution.
situation?
think I would call for a break in the meeting so that people could cool down and bring.
Mohammed, will you mute yourself? And Riaz, yes, go ahead, Riaz.
So I would call for a halt or a break in the meeting,
You
so
would?
that
I
I'll
didn't get
call
that.
for I'll call for a break in the meeting, a pause in
All
the
right.
meeting, so that
All right.
people could just cool down, and then perhaps during the break, we could speak to each of the individuals and say this is inappropriate,
Mhm.
and please try and control what you're saying so that it remains true to the point and doesn't go into personal conflict.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. Yes, that would, in a way, would be the ideal thing to do. Call for a break and then talk to the individuals and make it known that people are noticing that every time these two individuals meet, there is an escalation from a disagreement to a conflict. So yes, thank you, Riaz, for that. We have the fifth situation. A junior postdoctoral fellow strongly advocates publishing preliminary findings quickly. You believe waiting for additional validation would strengthen the paper. However, the fellow needs publications for a fellowship application deadline. We've been in this situation very often. Let me tell you. I mean, this is from my personal experience, where this I have been faced with this kind of a situation. Would you apply an accommodating mode, or you would use another mode? And when you use a accommodating mode, what would you do? I'm also trying to look at the chat now. Yogesh is saying most of the time HOD is chairing the session for the earlier one. If HOD and another senior is arguing, who calls for the break? The HOD ideally should call for the break.
The validation process has been occurred, and we can do research, and that must be a compromising situation. And what to do with the further if he has uh, he needs a publication for a fellowship application deadline. He has a
Yes.
deadline, and there is a way, and we have an accommodating for this situation.
Okay, so you would accommodate. Mrunal, what would you do? Mrunal, you have your hand raised.
Madam, I would like to state one thing that whichever approach you take depends upon your position in the hierarchy. Like earlier, it was said that if it is a HOD who's chairing a meeting, the juniors do not have in their hand to walk out. Whereas the person who answered, I think he is in a senior position and he said, okay, I will call for a break in the meeting and then ask them to rethink and again we reconvene. So where exactly in the hierarchy you are, your choice of conflict management will change.
So you are
Not,
talking about the earlier case. Earlier case.
no, in even,
Mrunal,
yeah,
no, in this case, this is what our learning is. Suppose you are the head, then you should also realize
yes,
that this is our conflict management learning. I mean, that we have to
absolutely.
decide that yes, we must take a break. And in this situation, as far as the publishing is concerned, would you give in and say that okay, let us publish this small data?
Yes,
Would
for
you
this,
accommodate?
I will compromise. Yes. So exactly. So, madam, we have been in a
Accommodate.
position of HOD. Yes. And
Yes.
the other sir who's writing about HOD, I think he is little maybe in junior person. So our point of view changes. You learn to look at other people's pluses and minuses, gains in when you are actually taking a decision. That's what. So
Correct.
where you are, what is your right now the position will decide your conflict management approach. That is what I wanted to say.
Correct. At the same time, in this situation, You could ask the student to show you the application process, and suppose somewhere you find a rider which says a publication is not necessary, even a presentation is fine at a conference, at a local conference. And if you're aware that there is a local conference happening, you can say, why don't you send this abstract? And this abstract you can show as, uh, uh, you know, uh, as having used this material. So it depends on what you would do. But most of the time, most of us as guides would accommodate, because the fellowship will play a very important role in his life, in the life of the student. And you could uh, publish the preliminary findings. So this is the situation that we have. When I said use these kind of competing, collaborative, compromising modes in these situations that we were talking about, remember when I said competing, there were ethics and patient safety was there. And that is why, Lavanya also said this, that you need to remember that safety, patient safety and ethics supersede the consensus. So that is why you would use a competing kind of view, where you will say, no, this is how I want to. When it comes to the split, you could have a collaborating kind of effect, where complex academic design can have an integrative kind of an approach. When you're compromising, equal power dynamics and finite resources necessitate a balanced practical split. And of course, when you avoid, in this second last case, public escalation requires immediate de-escalation. When you are arguing in front of juniors, remember, you are role models. And when this thing happens in front of people, it can cause a lot of different kind of repercussions in the whole environment of your department. And that is very important, to just take a situation into control and have a cooling off period. If even you cannot, is it possible, I'm just trying to argue this or talk to you all about this, is it possible that a junior sitting there can say, ma'am, can we just take a tea break just now, because everyone wants to have a cup of tea? Is it possible for you to take that onus and just don't say stop arguing, don't say anything, but just say, uh, can we stop? Or can you just say, can we have a water break? Yeah. Can as juniors you use this kind of a cloud? It is me asking you, would you be able to do such a thing, so that ultimately you are just de-escalating the matter and you have a cooling off period in hand? This is even what you can do as a junior when things are getting really, really out of hand, and there are all juniors and mid-level cadre people who are just staring at what is happening. That is when someone even down the line, not mentioning that situation, just slowly weans that whole the whole situation off. And of course, the fifth one was, remember, timeline is critical to the junior's career. Making the relationship more important than absolute rigor in this incident is important. So we have seen here that each of the situation, depending on its magnanimity, has different kind of approaches to make. Okay, and we could have many different kind of side effects or risks if overused. Each kind of situation, where if you use competing all the time, there could be damages to the relationship and a reduction in the morale. There could be collaborative could be time consuming and it requires a lot of effort. Compromising would be mediocre solution, would lead to mediocre solutions and partial satisfaction everywhere. Avoiding would have a lot of unresolved tension, and the issues may persist and worsen. So unless we do something like Mohammed and Riaz said, unless you call both parties sometime together individually and say, look, this is not working well, and it is not worth each one's psyche. And remember, when you're accommodating all the time, you lose authority, and it breeds internal resentment, because then people are not happy with your decision making skills. And that is what is very important. So, communication is very important. We need to have a bridge where you will minimize the conflict, have a proactive information sharing channels, recognize non-verbal cues also. When you're sitting in a meeting and you're watching, you put up a particular stand and you're seeing on the faces a lot of discontent, take cognizance of it and go ahead and ask, what is it, that is troubling you? Promoting empathy and active listening is so important. And of course, facilitating mediated discussions and encouraging open, honest feedback will always help to prevent conflicts. Remember, cultural differences will be there. There will be a lack of feedback, I mean, because of all the lack of feedback, there could be conflict. So, what would you do? What is this communication buffer I'm thinking about? Which could lead from frustration to destructive behavior. You know, what should we do? We should focus on the issue and not the person. When I said, remember, I talked about character assassination. Just don't do it. You have an active listening way in mind, and clarify before you conclude. Try and find out. You must have I statements over you statements all the time. Oh, you are always doing this. Oh, you always say this to me. You always think that I am wrong. Instead of saying that, have an I kind of a statement. For once, the I should become first here and not the you when you are on the defensive. So it will de-escalate, the defensive reactions. Schedule regular feedback. Act as a when you have regular feedbacks, it sort of act as pressure valves to prevent frustration being built up. So always remember to do this. Strategies that seldom work, please remember, include secrecy, administrative orbiting, and due process non-action that I mentioned in the beginning. So in every interaction, this is something that I just loved, and I want all of you to read this very carefully. In every interaction, you have two choices: to win the argument or strengthen the relationship. So choose wisely. I needed to replace the joy of being proven right with the joy of learning what's true. That is important. So always we are, at the balance, and when we are sitting on the fulcrum, we really need to see that we balance things properly. So listen before you lead, and clarify before you conclude. Focus on shared goals, not individual victories, and use interpersonal communication as your ultimate leadership toolkit. Having said this, I want you to have a look at this video. I hope I can play it. Yes. Can you see this?
Yes.
Sorry. So if you observe, you can learn from everything. And this phrase that is written here encourages us to be observant and open to learning from every experience and situation. And I would go a step further to say, innovate from your learnings. So every conflict can be managed in a win win situation. I am a great, I just love the Big Panda and the Tiny Dragon cartoons. And, I've got James Norbury's books. And these are two cartoons from there, which says, butterflies struggle most just before they emerge. And what a beautiful butterfly we see. So remember that when it comes to conflict management, we are going to be struggling, yes, but we need to have win win situations. And if we're not able to manage, could we, become like Big Panda and say, when Tiny Dragon says to him, I can't find my way out of this hole, said Tiny Dragon. And Big Panda said, then I will come and sit in it with you. So, can we accommodate, compromise, and see to it that the environment around us is a happy situation? So, with that, thank you very much. I will stop sharing, and uh, I am open to, to any of your conflict situations or anything that you want to say. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Sucheta, there is a tiny anecdote I'd like to share.
Yes, please, Dr. Zaidi.
That there were two goats. One came from one side, the other from the other, on a bridge, and there was a deep river or stream, whatever. They fought, and both fell down. There were two other goats standing outside somewhere in the distance. They saw the scene and came over, and one said, I'll bend down, I'll sit down, you cross over me, and then I'll cross.
Thank you, sir. Yes, so true, so true. So remember, you don't need to win every time. Thank you,
Madam Sucheta, if I can add, Mubashir here.
Oh, hello. So
Yes,
nice to see you. Lovely.
it's very nice. It's always a treat to hear your lectures, madam. You've been always an inspiration. So nice. And it's such a difficult topic. You made it so simple and easy, and many things we can grab from this and learn and use. Madam, I wanted to highlight that in this world, when we are using machine and AI, we can resolve these issues through some books. Say, if we are religious people, we can use our holy books and say your conflict will be resolved through you to talk whatever you want. Machine will record and go to that holy book, or maybe some books of mythology or philosophy or modern books on conflict resolution. So you can have like 100 references, fully complete books against that conflict, and a simple solution can come out. So we are in an age where we can use knowledge to get solutions very effectively, very quickly.
Yes.
Thank you so much,
Yes.
madam.
Yes, well said, Dr. Mubashir. So true, so true. So if everything fails, yes, you can move in that direction. Thank you. So yes, if you need a certificate, Fazila has just added that link there, and I think this link will be available. Sakina is going to be putting it across. Yeah, so you will have it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Marvelous talk as usual.
Thank you.
So nice of you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Mohammed, and thank you for participating actively.
Friends, on a wonderful
I'm glad Riyadh is saying that I will try to use these principles to solve conflicts between amongst the NGOs. Very nice. And Mona has rightly said sometimes goats have more common sense than humans. So thank you so much. And Sakina, over to you. And
Yes.
Dr. Zaidi, did you say something? Sorry, I missed it.
Extraordinary talk on a very difficult subject. It's always very challenging to talk about conflict resolution and communication skills. You made it so simple. And your presentation, I was telling Sakina that your presentation, your style, your content, everything was superb, as expected of a teacher of your excellence.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Anybody has any questions, comments? No, I know there are a lot of questions about the video. I will upload it as soon as Zoom prepares it for me, and I will upload it and I'll post it on the WhatsApp group. So if you are not on the WhatsApp group, please do join us. And if not, then you can keep a lookout for it. And thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Sucheta. It was amazing. And I know we can take this into any situation we have conflicts in. It was very interesting to listen to you. And thank you so much.
Thank you
Anybody
so much.
has any concerns, questions, comments?
They want to know how to join the WhatsApp group.
Yes, I will post the link in just a minute. Okay, I'm going to stop